Hello. We've just been on YouTube. An internationally acclaimed superstar. Oh, that's recent. Oh yeah, same. I don't have any more. Superstar. Probably if we're going too long with superstar. No, we're not going too long. I don't know. Oh yeah, that's very trendy on YouTube. Everyone holds the microphone. Did you see my video about incompetence? No. Lisa, let's take a selfie.
With the
audience in the background.
Okay, let's do it.
All these people are like one hour, 6 feet.
Pablito and Geoffcito.
See?
What was the restaurant we went once that UCL paid for it? It was Japanese. We ate dim sum, I think. I went to London 2 years ago and I tried to go there, but I couldn't remember the name. I remember going up and up and up and up. Taiwanese.
Gerald Street.
Delicious.
It was good.
Very
good. Do you remember going to Chinatown here?
Yeah.
When we said it was too spicy.
And too.
We should go back again.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah.
Just check my flies on something.
Sorry?
Just check my flies on something.
What? How do you say that?
Flies. It could be single or plural.
I fly
Fly or fly.
on top? No,
On top of
up.
No,
I'm checking my. Oh,
No, the zip is up or down. No, check when you say your flies are on. If you need single or plural, I don't know where it is. There'll be some old
it
terms
can
to
be
do with
singular or
plural.
plural.
Fly or flies. And there's an expression, you've got egg on your chin.
Egg on your chin.
Yeah.
And what does it mean?
It means your zip is down.
Really? And the origin of that?
Just to avoid saying your zip is down.
I have to leave in 30 minutes. Arrancamos.
Hopefully it will work. I'm not sure.
Hola, buenas tardes. Evidentemente ha sido un evento con mucha convocatoria, así que espero que estén cómodos a pesar de todo. Y las chicas, algunos alumnos de USAL van a estar por ahí paradas atrás, así que gracias. Bienvenidos a la Universidad de El Salvador, a la Escuela de Lenguas Modernas. Aquí se dictan las carreras de traductorado e interpretación. Y hoy recibimos a esta visita internacional, que es la segunda vez que está en este auditorio, y le agradecemos mucho a Path International Examinations por invitarnos a compartir esta charla que va a ser muy interesante. Sin más, le voy a dar la palabra a Pablo de Marchi, que es el director general de Path en Latinoamérica, en Argentina, perdón, Latinoamérica, Argentina y Latinoamérica. Y bueno, estar muy agradecidos con PAD porque nosotros tenemos un convenio que firmamos en 2018 por el cual somos partners de PAD para los exámenes, no solo en esta sede de Buenos Aires, sino también en la sede del campus de Pilar. Así que en diciembre vamos a hacer sede para unas cuantas sesiones de examen de PAD, tanto acá en Buenos Aires como en Pilar. Nada más, Geoff, bienvenido, welcome.
Gracias.
Y te cedo la palabra, Pablo.
Thank you. ¿Me escuchan bien ahí? ¿Sí?
Mi nombre es Paula Ortiz, soy la directora de la Escuela de Lenguas Modernas.
Can you hear me well enough? Yes? Yes? Good. Okay. Thank you, Paula, for hosting us. It's the first event of Geoff in Argentina this year. Yeah, we have an agreement together, path examinations at USAL since 2018, and more than 500 candidates take exams at USAL every year, year in, year out. So we are very happy with the partnership. Thank you all for coming. I think we overbooked. The talk is overbooked. Sorry about the latecomers. And Geoffcito, welcome.
Thank you.
I call him Geoffcito because he's a friend of the house. Geoff is not a newcomer to Argentina. In Argentina,
Just because I'm so small.
and you call me Pablito as well.
Yes.
There we go. Geoff came in 2017 for the first time, crazy trip. 2018, 19, and
No,
now.
17.
17,
Yeah,
the first one,
This
yeah.
is the fourth.
The fourth time, wow, amazing. Thank you, Geoff, for coming.
Thank you for inviting us.
And well, we are very happy that the first event is here at USAL. I studied at USAL, now I teach at USAL, so it feels part of me as well. And well, Geoffcito, the floor's yours, okay?
It's mine.
Yeah. Enjoy the talk and thank you for coming.
Do you have any more chairs anywhere? No? You could sit on the table or something. Is this on? Can you hear? Can you hear me at the back? Yes? Really? Is it clear? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want it there? Is that better or worse? Better. Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a huge crowd, very flattering. It's great to be back. The thing I'm going to try and talk to you about today is English rhythm, which I think is a very important topic and one that I think gets forgotten about. Because I think the terminology is confusing and it's difficult to implement, difficult to take the theoretical concepts and apply them in the classroom. So I'm hoping that something in this talk will be of use to someone. There's quite a lot of material here. I apologize because I know we have some great experts here who know more about English phonetics than I do. I hope you're not too bored, all you experts here, because some of the concepts I think will be quite basic, but there's quite a lot of material, so I hope we get somewhere today. So English rhythm. What is rhythm, apart from having a crazy spelling? So a rhythm is a pattern of events in time. That's what I think a rhythm is. We're talking essentially about time. Time will be very important throughout the talk. So what are the events that we're talking about? Well, in speech, rhythm is about the timing of syllables. Those are the events in time that we're talking about in speech rhythm, syllables. And in English, this is heavily dependent, as I'm sure many of you know, on stress. And what this means is that in order to understand rhythm, we've got to begin by talking about stress. So I've got quite a lot to say about stress here. Again, I'm sorry if it's too basic for people, but hopefully it will become clear why I need to go through these things so that we can talk about rhythm later on. Stress refers to the ways in which some syllables are more prominent, in which some syllables stand out more than others. Now that's very vague. That's very vague indeed. That's phonetic. Just standing out. What does that mean in phonetics? Well, the point is that stress is very different from one system to another, from one language to another. It's not always the same thing. Stress is one of these words in linguistics and phonetics that is very familiar to people. Everybody knows the word stress. And the danger here is to think that because the word is known, the word is very well known, the danger is to think that the meaning of it is very well known, and it's not. It's a very complicated and difficult thing to pin down. So the one thing that all stress systems have in common is they're talking about some syllables standing out more than others. Now, there are various ways in which the word gets used, and I want to differentiate 3 right now, and then focus in on one of them. So the most common way in which we talk about stress is in terms of word stress or lexical stress. And this means how, when you look in a dictionary, which syllable or syllables are the ones marked as having stress, whatever that means. People also sometimes talk sentence stress. Maybe not in this room, but if you go around the world, there are a lot of people in linguistics who will talk about sentence having stress. Another name for this sentence stress that some of you might know is tonicity. Do you know this word, tonicity? Yes? Tonicity is, I think, the positive thing about the word tonicity, it doesn't involve the word stress. That's a good thing. The bad thing is it's not clear what it means at all anyway, I mean tonicity. So it has some good qualities and some bad qualities. This is all about which syllable stands out the most in a bigger stretch of speech than a word. So word stress is just looking at the individual items in a dictionary. Sentence stress is looking at bigger things, phrases. Of course, I say bigger, but phrases can be just one word long. So phrases can be short, they can be much bigger. Sentence stress refers to where we put the main emphasis in a whole phrase, sometimes called the tonic, hence the word tonicity, the tonic or the nucleus. And we can also use the word tonicity to refer to some subsidiary accents as well. But I'm pointing this out because, not because I'm going to be talking about it, but people use this word stress. Is this working? Yeah. People use the word stress in the context of sentence stress. It's very confusing. I don't want to be a terminology fascist. You know, as long as it's clear, any words are fine, as long as people know what you're talking about. But stress, as I say, gets very confusing very quickly. People also use the term rhythmic stress. You know the term rhythmic stress? The term rhythmic? Many people, maybe, I don't know. I've sometimes used the term, and this is to do with timing, but in the context of bigger utterances. And although it's fine if you know what it means, my own preference would be to use the term, find a word other than stress to refer to this. So I would prefer to restrict the term stress for just word stress. I'm not saying that that is necessarily right, it's just my use. In order to make stress as little confusing as possible, let's just use it for what's marked in dictionaries. And we'll find different words for other things, like pitch accents in intonation and beats in rhythm. But as long as you know what sentence stress means, as long as you know what rhythmic stress means, it's fine. We have to make a big distinction, talking about words, between content words and function words. You all know these terms, yes? Everybody, okay, good. So content words generally are stressed, and these include the nouns and the main verbs and the adjectives and most adverbs. So I can go a bit more quickly now. So eat, the verb, that's a content word. Banana, North American banana, that's a content word too. So those two words are going to have stress. Likewise, adjectives like boring, words like documents. There are some generalizations we can make about where stress goes in English words, but the generalizations are so complicated and so confusing that the simplest thing for most learners of English is just to treat it as something you have to look up in a dictionary, unfortunately. Now notice that most dictionaries, not all, there are dictionaries that mark stress on one-syllable words. My dictionary, I have an online dictionary, we mark stress on one-syllable content words. But many dictionaries don't, and there are some linguists and mathematicians who say stress only makes sense when you have more than one syllable because it's relative. This is more stressed, This is less stressed. Personally, I think it's more helpful to say that content words stress even if they only have one syllable. So I would say there is a stress, a lexical stress, even on a one-syllable word like eat. Now, most function words, is this coming and going? Any idea what I can do about that? I don't know. Is it connected properly? Well, don't just sit there if you can't hear me, yes? I mean, wave or something if you miss the meaning of a sentence, yes? I might say, whoosh, it's gone again. Should I use one of the other microphones? Okay. I don't know what it is I'm doing wrong, but... So you all know what function words are. These are the little connecting words. There are content words and function words in all languages as far as I'm aware, and certainly in Spanish as well. So articles, prepositions, pronouns, etc., etc. Should I try this? Is this working? Is that good? Yes. Wow. So let me take this other thing off. We'll say bye-bye to that. If I put this one down, the one I'm holding will stop working. Hopefully not. Is it working? Yes. Is it coming and going? Right. Now I have to use my hands for all kinds of different things. So if I start doing this, tell me. Yes, so we all know what function words are. So we have a banana. There's only one stress there because there's only one content word. From America, just one stress. In the book, in, preposition, and the article, etc. I'm tired. So I'm is a contraction of a pronoun and the copula, the verb to be. Neither of those are usually stressed. So I'm tired. So finished. So finished. And we have at the end here, and we can agree. Native speakers like me are going to say things like, we can agree about that. There's just no stress until you get to agree. Yeah? Agree is much, much bigger and louder than the other words. Some of these problems with content words and function words can be problematic for Spanish-speaking learners and users of English. And I find that Spanish speakers will often stress pronouns, because of course you can leave them out a lot of the time. And so if you use subject pronouns explicitly, overtly, it's normally to be relatively emphatic. But of course, even though, whereas you drop the subject pronouns, we keep them, but we hardly say them. English is more like Spanish than you think. You know? We only sort of half say them. We say, puedo, and we say, can. And the pronoun is almost not there. However, several categories of function words are usually stressed, or very often stressed. And these include negatives. Negative words are generally stressed. So we should think of these, I call them honorary content words. Now, there are several categories of content, of function words that behave like content words in usually having stress. So you get something like, I'm not tired. Two stresses on not, because it's a negative, and tired, because it's a content. I'm not tired. Spanish speakers, of course, often don't stress the word not, because not so often is not stressed in Spanish, yes? So Spanish speakers will often put the stress on the pronoun and not on the negative. I'm not tired. Whereas that means something different in English, because it sounds like you're putting an emphatic stress on the I. Not tired. With those tiny little pronouns. I'm not tired. Quantifiers typically are stressed. These words that tell you how much there is of something, like both, all, most, etc. Both of the books. Both of the books.
Interrogative words when they're actually in questions as opposed to being used as relative markers. Yeah? Where are you going? Where are you going? Alphanumerics, just a fancy way of saying letters, letter names and numbers, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, etc. So say room G15, room G15. The names of letters, A, B, C, etc., so often are underpronounced by L2 users of English. You know, the names of letters, they're generally very loud and stressed, and of course, if they end in vowels, they end in long vowels, A, B, C, D, etc. So I always hear speakers of other languages saying things like PDF, 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 DVD. Nobody, do any of you know what a DVD is anymore? They've disappeared now, yes, we don't have those anymore. But we used to have DVDs, or DVDs as English speakers say. DVDs, PDFs, MP3s, great big letters and numbers in English. Demonstratives like this, those, there, then, etc., very often stressed. We like these. We like these. Honorary content words, that's what I call them. Function words with more than one syllable will always have a syllable that's more stressed than the other one. So words like around London. Around is only a preposition, it's 2 syllables, so one of them is likely to have a stress. Now, how is stress actually pronounced? And it's a question worth asking because, again, people often misunderstand the word stress. People think that because the word is very familiar, the meaning must be very straightforward. Oh, we all know what stress is. But in fact, stress is much more slippery than that. And it's not just loudness. Yes, very often the stress syllable is not louder than other syllables around it. Loudness is determined by various things, including vowel quality. And so, is louder than E, etc. Also, loudness is continuous. It's gradient, you know? Whereas stressed is not gradient in the same way. So it can't just be loudness. We don't have fixed levels of loudness. Now, in English and in many other languages, but not in Spanish, one of the ways in which stress is pronounced is related to actual vowel quality. Yes? So you don't change the qualities, at least not categorically. You don't change the vowel phonemes in Spanish when syllables are stressed or unstressed. But in English, this can be the case, certainly for the least stressed syllables. The least stressed syllables are often called weak. And weak syllables, the least stressed syllables of English, can only have a few vowels. Of course, everybody knows the name of the most common one, schwa, yes? Schwa. Which is the most common vowel in weak syllables. There are a few other vowels that you can get, like I, as in depicted, or there's 3 occurrences of the vowel I, depicted, but only one of them is stressed. The first and last ones are weak. And E, and for some speakers, U and U, not really for me. U and U in my own personal accent, they're not really weak vowels. I don't say educate, I say educate with a schwa, educate. North Americans pronounce it that way, educate. It's the majority pronunciation, not educate or educate. Some speakers say educate, they do say that, but not all accents of English do that. And I don't want to waste time on this, but the symbols that you're familiar with from many dictionaries and teaching materials, which are the lowercase I and U with no length mark. I wish they'd never been invented, but we're stuck with them. When you see them, well, they do something. I think the way you should understand those two things is they're not separate phonemes. They're basically the long E and U vowels, but when they occur in weak syllables. Yeah? When they occur in weak syllables. For those speakers who have U in weak syllables, which doesn't include me. And of course, in the reference teaching accents that you're most familiar with, RP, if you like to call it that. Standard Southern British is another name, SSB, I prefer that. In that accent, you don't get schwa in stressed syllables. It's for another talk for me to talk about the fact that schwa can most definitely be stressed and is stressed in many accents. And if you watch my video on the topic, I explain that schwa is stressed by most speakers of English. But if that upsets you, forget I said it. I want to make a t-shirt that says, I'm like schwa, I'm always stressed. Now, there absolutely are accents of English, including Standard Southern British and RP, where schwa is not stressed. It is the case in some accents. Depends on the accent. In both English and Spanish, how are we doing for time? Oh, I probably need to speed up. Is this speed too slow? Is it too fast? Is it perfect? In English and Spanish, one of the ways in which stress is pronounced, one of the ways we hear stress phonetically, is through the intonation. Yes, the potential for accent or full-term pitch accent. So if you say a word and you're going to put a big pitch accent on it, you put the big pitch accent on the primary stressed syllable. And that's true in English, and it's true in Spanish, and it's true in many languages. We put pitch accents on the stressed syllables. Whoops, oh my goodness, what happened? What did I do? Oh, came back again. Hooray. It's a coming and going kind of day. Okay, so let's take this sentence, I'm not surprised. It's typically going to have two stresses, one on not, because it's negative, one on surprised, because it's a content word. Not one on I'm, yes, because that's a contraction of a pronoun and the copula. Now, if those are the stresses, it means we can put pitch accents on them. So if we're going to actually assign a specific intonation contour to this phrase, we'll use the stressed syllables as the anchor points, the landing pads, or whatever you want to call them, for the pitch accents. So, for example, those of you who know lots and lots and lots about intonation and heads and nucleus and all that sort of stuff, this is one possible way you could say that. This means that you're saying tired with a falling rising pattern. Yeah? Can we all do that? Tired. Yeah? Yeah. It's that super British intonation pattern. It is used by North Americans, but it's people from England like me who use this pattern all the time. And before it, you often get this falling pitch. So I'm not tired. If it sounds very artificial, I hear this all the time where I live. This pattern does exist. I'm not tired, but I'm not at my best. Of course, you can change the intonation, and you could have this pattern, which is, I'm not tired. I'm not tired. I'm just pointing out that you can put different pitch accents on. You have different pitch accents in Spanish, you have different pitch accents in English. You can shift them around depending on the context. But where you put them is related to stress. And another characteristic of stress, another characteristic of the phonetic consequences of stress is rhythmic beats. When we have rhythmic beats in a phrase, when we feel these rhythmic beats like in music, yes, beats like in the music, the places that we put those beats are related to the stress system. It's a little bit more complicated than just saying we put a beat on every stress, as we'll see in a few minutes. I said in English because I just don't know enough about Spanish rhythm. Okay. So I'm just saying in English, we get this. Rhythmic beats are likely to go on stress syllables. More later. Degrees of stress How many degrees of stress are there? Is it just stressed and not stressed? Well, English, of course, has to be more complicated than that. You have your verbs, pronunciation. And our spelling system. There's disagreement about the number of degrees of stress, but very often I think we need to talk about three. We need to talk about three. My colleague, co-editor of the online dictionary I do, he's adamant that English has binary stress. There's only stressed and unstressed. And if he was here, he could talk to you about that. So it's possible. You can find ways of making English work with just stressed and unstressed, but you have to get the work done with some other mechanisms. So I would say that we really, the kind of descriptions that are relevant to teaching, we need to think about three levels. We have the primary stress syllables, and those are the ones marked in the dictionary with this mark high up before the relevant syllable. Dictionaries do differ. They're not all the same, but this is the one you'll be most familiar with. And I've already mentioned the weak syllables. Weak syllables have no stress at all. And as I've said before, I didn't say before, they're usually very short, but they are. That's crucial for them. There's no special symbol that shows you that something weak, unless you consider the lowercase I and U without the length mark as being a symbol for weak level of stress through the back door, as it were, indirectly telling you that those vowels are weak. But we don't have a simple phonetic symbol that simply means this syllable is weak. As I mentioned before, weak syllables in English can only have a small number of vowels. You can't put any vowel in any old vowel in a weak syllable. And then we need to acknowledge there are intermediate syllables, syllables that don't have the primary stress and aren't weak. Some people will make more distinctions than this, so maybe these intermediate syllables themselves have more than one level of stress, but for our purposes today, I just refer to these intermediate ones. Some of them are shown in dictionaries with a secondary stress mark, same as the primary, low down. Nothing to do with pitch. This doesn't mean high and this doesn't mean low. It means that this one has more stress, supposedly, and this one has less stress. But it's important to, for example, there we go, Argentina. Argentina. A rule of English is that no word of English begins with two unstressed syllables. No English word begins with two unstressed syllables. So one of the first two syllables of any English word has to have some stress. Okay? That doesn't include I'm talking about content words. Yeah? In content words, one of the first two syllables has to have either a primary or a secondary stress. But dictionaries can be inconsistent about this, and it's not just the dictionaries being inefficient or inconsistent, it's because in reality we get variability in these unstressed syllables. Some dictionaries tell you that there are two stresses in everywhere. Some dictionaries tell you there's only one stress everywhere. It can be tricky to work out whether we have these secondary levels of stress. Is it unique or is it just unique? You'll see this variability in dictionaries, but also, as we'll see later on, there's variability in how people actually pronounce things. Weak forms, one of my favorite topics. Have any of you seen any of my videos? Yes. Are you sick of the videos on weak forms? I'm fascinated by weak forms. I just have a personal fascination in these phonetic phenomena where there seems to be a fork in the road. The road diverges. The native speakers go this way, and everybody else go this way. Weak forms are a feature of English that are native speakers rely on them. Native speakers use them constantly, but they're very tricky to teach, and people very often don't believe in them because they're not shown in the normal writing system. So learners of English will very often say, well, you can pronounce these words weakly if you want, but I'm going to do it properly. Many of the commonest function words appear as weak syllables. Most, not all, but most with schwa. Weak syllables are not freestanding. So people will not produce an utterance that contains only a weak syllable. Weak syllables always have to have some strong syllable to be attached to lean upon, whether that's inside a word or even if it's a weak form. So you don't get these weak forms on their own. They have to be connected. And usually, given the grammar of English, the weak form occurs before the word that it's connected to, which means that weak forms very often, not always, but very often, essentially act like prefixes. So we'll quickly go through some examples. The articles, usually and un. If you watch YouTube videos, you'll hear people all the time pronouncing the indefinite article strongly. This is a book, and this is a. In this video, I'm going to give you a story about a, etc. I made a video about that. You can do it if you want, but actually in real sort of natural day-to-day speech, people don't do that so much. So an example would be a cat. A cat. And in this transcription here, I've left out the space, which seems to be a kind of religious requirement of certain phoneticians, that you must put the normal spaces between words, even in transcription. But there's absolutely no reason to do this, to do this. There's no reason to do this today. Today, to do, today. We don't put a space between t and day in today, unless, of course, we're John Wells in the Longman Pronunciation Dictionary, where he puts spaces between all the syllables, all the things that he considers to be syllables. Great genius, my teacher, John Wells, the great John Wells. So, that's John's way of doing things. The spaces can really cause a lot of trouble for learners of English, in my opinion. They have their advantage, by the way. He did it for very good reasons. It's much easier to read a phonetic transcription that's full of spaces. Much easier. But unfortunately, speakers of many languages, other than Spanish, especially speakers of Japanese and Chinese, etc., will always put great big glottal stops before vowels if there's space before them. So there's a danger in using these spaces. Anyway, a cat. There's no special reason to put a space between the and the cat. A cat. I'm writing it this way to emphasize that the article has to be attached to the word, yeah, to the stronger word, a cat. And men and women, and women, and women. And is normally pronounced without the D, yeah, normally and this and that, here and there. Up and down, men and women. As soon as possible. As soon as possible. These are the normal pronunciations of words like this. At, yeah, at least, can, this is an important one. The positive word can is usually weak unless we have some reason to make it strong. So you can leave. You can leave. I made a video all about can and how astonishingly weak it can be in pronunciation. How astonishingly weak it can be. It can be. It can be. If you put some little noise between a subject and a verb in English, native speakers will hear it as the word can. Yeah? You can do that if you want. You can do that if you want. You can do that if you want. So that's the word can. And this is in great contrast with the negative form, can't, or North American can't. Depends on the accent. But what's the same in all of these accents of English is that the negative is stressed, whereas the positive is typically unstressed, and not only unstressed, usually weak. Yeah? So you can leave, one stress, leave. You can't leave, two stresses. Big difference. And native speakers don't use the word cannot very much. Yeah? So can't or can't, is 5 times more common than cannot. So again, L2 users of English will tend to have can, cannot. Native speakers have and can't. And in North American English, can't, very often you can hardly hear the T, if at all. You know? So it's the strength of it that tells you it's negative. If you hear a North American saying, I can't do that, I can't do that, it's almost certainly negative. Because the positive would be, I can do that. I can do that. F or fur in rhotic English, work, from home, of course. These forms of the copula. It's good, it's good. It's good. And the auxiliary have. Yeah? So you have tener and haber, and we've got weak have and strong have. We make the distinction too, but not in the writing. Yeah? Phonetically, we have the same distinction that Spanish has. Yeah? As in, is Geoff gone? Is Geoff gone? Some of the commonest weak forms often change their vowel if a vowel follows. So the chicken but the egg. The chicken but the egg. Many younger speakers on both sides of the Atlantic, as we say, always pronounce this word as the, but before a vowel, you have to use a glottal stop. The chicken, the egg. The chicken, the egg. Very common. If you watch YouTube videos, just listen. Yes, younger speakers from all over the English-speaking world. The egg, the end. You know, very common. It doesn't have to be the egg, but I'm a very old man and I say the end. Same with to start, I say to start, to end, to start, to end. Younger speakers increasingly to start, to end, schwa and a glottal stop. Do you? Do I? That's what I say. Do you? Do I? The vowel changes when the following sound is a vowel. But again, many, many younger speakers, do you? Do I have to do this? Yeah? Do I go here? I don't do that, but you'll notice it now if you watch English language YouTube videos. And of course, it's a simplification. You just have to remember that if you're using the forms with schwa before a vowel, you need a glottal stop. You can't say the start, the end. Yeah? Which, of course, is exactly what Spanish speakers want to do, because you let final vowels merge into initial vowels. And when I'm listening, if I'm on my app trying to learn some phrases of Spanish, absolutely one of the hardest things for me is hearing the word boundaries, because so many Spanish words end in vowels, and well, most Spanish words end in vowels, and many words begin with vowels, and they just blur together. And very often the second one disappears. Words which usually appear in weak forms sometimes appear in strong forms. So we all know this. Citation forms, when you quote a word. So we say the word and. We don't use the weak form there. That would be very strange. If you use the weak form, it would be the worden. Worden. No, the word and. Otherwise you wouldn't understand what we're saying. For emphasis, you can leave. Of course English can do this. You could put a great big emphatic stress on anything you want if you want to. And at the end of a phrase, this is the one I asked for. This is the one I asked for. You don't get the weak form there. This is the one I asked for. No. Notice that I said these are like prefixes. Yes, at the end of a phrase, there's nothing to lean forward onto. And so it has to be strong. Do what you can, not do what you can. Weak forms are used in slow, careful speech, and for us, when we're understanding each other, we use them for contrast. I don't know if, can you see this number? Pointer here. I don't know if you can see that number. So this is a special offer in a bookstore, 3 for 2. But this bus is 342. They don't sound the same. 3 for 2, 342. Same thing applies in North American English, right? I mean, they pronounce the R's, etc. But the weak, strong stuff all applies there too. To fish, 2 fish, not the same. Yeah? I want to fish. I want to go fishing. I want to fish. I want 2 fish. I'm very hungry. I think that meat is bad. I think that meat is bad. I think that meat is bad. It's not the same. Yeah? So we've got the same distinction that you've got. It's just not shown in the spelling. Yeah? You very often hear the 2 words together, that. Yeah? I know that that's difficult. I know that's difficult. Different in Spanish, different in English. Very often you get that. And here, my endless series of videos about weak forms, if you're interested. Yeah. So, 7 minutes past 7. When do we finish? 10? Midnight. Tomorrow. Right, okay, I need to speed. Well, seriously, when do you want me to shut up? 7? Oh, okay. I'm going too slowly. But to review what we've done so far, because this talk is about rhythm, but we just need to do groundwork first. English rhythm involves timing and stress. I haven't gone into that in great detail yet. I've been speaking about stress. Content words are stressed. Most function words are usually unstressed. This includes pronouns. But it excludes, nice emphatic stress on the X there, it excludes negatives, WH words in questions, alphanumerics, and demonstratives. Many common function words usually appear as weak syllables, and weak syllables are not freestanding. They have to be stuck onto something else. They're like affixes, usually prefixes. To go, the book. They're very short, and they don't contain many different vowels, usually schwa and e. E are the main ones. Okay, back to rhythm. Speech rhythm involves the timing of syllables. Rhythm is the patterning of events in time. The events we're interested in are syllables. So how do we time the syllables? Some languages that I can think of have roughly equal timing of syllables. Not exact. Nothing's ever exact in speech, but roughly. And this, of course, includes Spanish, French, and a lot of other languages. And this is called syllable-timed rhythm. So the syllables are not all exactly the same length in Spanish. Of course they're not. But relatively speaking, the durations are somewhat similar. And so to English-speaking ears, as we say, to English-speaking ears, we hear Spanish as everything's very, very even, it seems to us. Of course, it may not seem that way to you, but it seems to us because we have this much bigger difference between the most stressed and the least stressed. And it's not just in terms of intensity, loudness, the amount of energy in the sound, it's about time. Rhythm is about time. In English, the timing of syllables is much more dependent on stress, which is why I've been talking about stress. And we call this stress-timed rhythm. So what do we mean exactly by stress-timed rhythm? Well, it's very easy to give a simple definition, which is clearly not accurate for describing reality. It's a starting point, but it's too simple. An oversimple definition of stress-timed rhythm would be that the stresses are spaced equally in time. people will often say that this is how English rhythm works. It's not nonsense, it's just too simple. It's too simple. And the idea would be that the stresses are equal in time, regardless of how many syllables there are between them. So if you had something like this, with the big dots being the stress syllables, the idea in stress-timed rhythm is the big dots have to be equally spaced in time. Bum, 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 bum. Regardless of what's between them. So bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, bum. The big dots spaced equally in time, regardless of how many other syllables there are. But it's not true that all syllables marked in dictionaries are stressed, are equally spaced in time. It just won't work if you take a sentence of English, look each word up in a dictionary, see where the stresses are, according to what the dictionary tells you, and then put those equally spaced in time. It's too simple, it will break down. And people who've tried to find that with measurements have always failed. And some people, unfortunately, say as a result, oh, this stress-timed rhythm, it's a legend, it's a fable, it's not true. However, there is a tendency for rhythmic beats to be equally spaced in time in English. This is where we have to be precise about how we're using the word stress. I use the word stress for things marked in dictionaries. But in actual utterances, we do indeed have a tendency for rhythmic beats, like the musical beats, to be spaced relatively equally in time. The thing is that not all of the syllables marked in dictionaries as stressed get a beat. So do you begin to see why I prefer to use stress, beat, to keep terminology different? Stress is what's marked in a dictionary for me, and these events in time that are equally spaced are the beats, which don't necessarily correspond to the dictionary stresses. This phenomenon, as we'll see more in a few minutes, of not all stressed syllables getting a beat, was named by my great teacher, John Wells, of the Longman pronunciation teacher, downgrading. And there are a few concepts that John introduced, which I keep going, absolutely. So, but I don't think downgrading. Have any of you heard of downgrading? Yes, says one, lots of shaking heads. Yeah. It's not a very, very universally used term, but I think it's very useful. I'll come back to it, don't worry. And this is why rhythmic stress is a potentially confusing term. I would rather, I mean, fine, as long as you know what you're talking about, but I would rather say rhythmic beats. Syllables with a rhythmic beat may be longer or shorter, depending on the unstressed syllables which follow. This is another characteristic of stress-timed rhythm. Oh, sorry, I should say really, it's the basic characteristic of stress-timed rhythm. And this phenomenon is called rhythmic clipping. So the two concepts that I want to go through now are downgrading and rhythmic clipping, and I'll do them in reverse order. We'll start with rhythmic clipping. When a stressed syllable is followed by one or more unstressed syllables, it is shortened. So take these three words. We can look at waveforms of them. Note how those three words are quite similar in length. Certainly the first two, almost the same, and the third one certainly is not 3 times longer than the first one. Yeah? And here are the parts corresponding to man. Okay? Man, manner, manager. And the man gets shorter depending on how many following unstressed syllables there are. So note that these three words are about the same length. This makes stresses or beats more evenly spaced in time than they would otherwise be. If that's not immediately clear, let's look at another example. Take the short phrase, two men. Two men, basic phrase of English. two of the men. Two of the men. Now, if English was syllable timed, you'd have two men, two of their men. Two men, two of their men. And two of their men would be about twice as long as two men. But that's not how English works. So if we try to represent that visually, there's two men, and there's two of the men. It's about the same length, the same way that manner and manager were similar in duration to man. Yeah? So you've got to stick in the of the, yeah? And the consequence is that they suck time out of two. Two is much longer in two men than it is in two of the men. This is real. This is absolutely a real phenomenon of English. Yeah? This happens very much. Note also the importance of weak forms for English rhythm. Yeah? It's not just that the two get shortened, but really short. By the way, of the it's the most common two-word combination in English by a mile. Yeah? If you treat of the as a word, it's one of the 20 most common words of English. Yeah? And it's one of the things that differentiates L1 speakers like me from L2 users of English, who tend not to make it tiny the way we do. Yeah? At the end of the day, very often pronounced other. A good way to begin practicing English rhythm, you have to do something now, is to begin with the simple version of stress timing. You know, remember that you look up the stresses in the dictionary and you put a beat on each one and you space them equally in time. So this is a good way to start practicing. I imagine you're going to be very good at doing this. So you put a beat on every stress and space them out in time. And it's good to begin with a very slow tempo, especially with your students. So if we take this phrase, find the stressed syllables. So where are the stressed syllables here? So I'll start with the easy part. First syllable of lecture, lec, that's a content word stressed on the first syllable. Late is a content word, gets a stress. Where else is there a stress? Who, yes? Who is a WH word in a question. Yeah? So who is late? Lecture. Find any weak syllables, because remember they're going to be very small. Yeah? So where are the weak syllables here? Second syllable of lecture is weak, lecture, or lecture in North American English. And everything else is also weak. Start tapping regular beats at a slow tempo. That's very slow. This is for beginners, yeah? And then say only the stressed syllables on those beats. So you set up your rhythm like a metronome, and then you say just the red syllables. Who, late, lec. Who, late, lec. Who, late, lec. And then finally, you add the unstressed syllables, okay? Keeping the stressed syllables, the red syllables, on the beats. So who, late, lec. Who, late, lecture. Who, late, lecture. Who, late, lecture. Yeah? Red syllables are the big ones, everything else very, very small. Let's quickly do some others. Go straight into it, beginning with the red syllables, yeah? Had, bad, fall. Had, fall. I had a bad fall. Remember that I at the beginning? Not stressed. I had, some people would call this unfooted. Had a bad fall. I had bad fall. Had fall. I had, no. Was late Mon. I wasn't as late on Monday. I wasn't as late as on Monday. Yeah, you get the idea? Ne, tri, sub. Ne, tri, sub. Phonetics is a tricky subject. Phonetics. Excellent, very good. I knew you'd be good at this. Ne, tri, think. Ne, tri, think. Phonetics. Very good. Phonetics is trickier than you think. So you have to get trickier than you into about the same amount of time as think. Lease can't help. Or North American can't help. Lease can't help. The police lease help. Lease help. Lease help. The police can help you. Yeah, okay, good. Very, very. Can is microscopic most of the time in native speech. The police help you. I mean, I showed him one of my videos that can literally be silent. You think you've heard it and it's not there. The police help you. Native speakers are going to hear that as can. Oh, you know what this is? I'm very old. My cultural references are always they belong in the last century. Try this one. These voy star n. These voy star n. These are the voyages of the. It's easy. Voyages of the. Voyages of the. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Okay. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Now, are you beginning to think that this is all very unrealistic? And English isn't really like this.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
See, it's real. Yeah. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. And you've got to get that. Voyages of them. Can you do it at his speed? These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. These are the voyages of the Starship. Yeah, yeah. Crazy language. Okay, downgrading. And for those of you who know lots about stress and rhythm, I think this is the main part of the lecture. If we put a beat on every stress, very often, I think I could say usually, it sounds emphatic. It sounds very emphatic. It doesn't sound normal. You can do it, but it sounds emphatic. So we have to find some way of removing some of the stresses. Usually, of course, sometimes you get a beat on every stress, but usually some stresses get no beat, and John Wells called that downgrading. Some syllables where you might expect a beat don't get one. Most commonly, the middle one of three stresses in some kind of grammatical unit or chunk will lose its stress, lose its beat, I should say. Yeah? This is extreme. This is the default, yes? Putting the stresses on all of them is not the default. This is why downgrading is so important. So, 2 is a numeral, £100 content words. So, 200 pounds, 200 pounds, 200 pounds. Yes, but when do we say that? 200 pounds. How much would you like, please? Oh, I need to change. 200 pounds. Downgrading is the norm, yeah? And now it's 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 200 pounds, you know? So note the major effects this has on timing. 200 pounds, 200 pounds. Huge difference, yeah? And the one on the bottom is the norm. So it's not crazy. There is stress timing, but the stress timing is of beats. We very often and quite systematically lose many of the beats. 200 pounds. So let's do some examples. Okay? So, emphatic. Oh, I had a bad fall. Had bad fall. I had a bad fall. You can do that. It's possible. But it's quite emphatic. So which one's going to lose its beat? Had fall. Had fall. I had fall. I had a bad. You've still got to keep the vowel there. I'm hearing some schwas out there. Had a bad foul. It's not had a bad fall. Had a bad fall. It's timing. That's the main thing I want you to take away from this. Rhythm is about timing. And when you start taking beats away, it changes the amount of time that the syllables last. I mean, just look at that. Had a bad fall, had a bad fall. It's absolutely real. And of those two, the bottom one is the more common. Yeah? Downgrading is happening all the time, everywhere. Do you know who that is? Is it Humpty Dumpty had a great fall? No. Why not? Because of downgrading. Yes? Humpty Dumpty is the subject noun phrase. Humpty Dumpty, Humpty Dumpty. The verb phrase is had a great fall. Had a great fall. It's a grammatical unit, a verb phrase. Can you hear me at the back? Have I been moving my microphone too much? Had a great fall. 3 beats, 3 potential beats, 3 stresses in a grammatical unit. Usually we downgrade the middle one. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And the reason it's like that is because you can lose. It's not because great isn't an important word. You have to start forgetting the idea that stress is about, oh, the important word. Yeah? Downgrading is much more structural than that. The middle one of 3 had a great fall. USA, USA, USA. Emphatic. So what do? Downgrade. USA, and now it's normal. USA, 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 USA. It's everywhere downgrading, yeah? I mean, think of any 3-letter initialism. Yeah? Anyone you can think of. Yeah? It's going to typically have downgrading of the middle one. Yeah? B, B, C. Let's watch something on the BBC about the CIA and the FBI. BBC, 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 BBC. Downgrading. Okay, now I want you to do you have a few more minutes? Yeah, to practice downgrading? Say the following phrases, removing a beat from one of the stressed syllables. Okay, I want you to tell me, what do I do? And they're not easy. You'll need all your knowledge so far. That's why I'm spending so much time going into details on things. Okay, so let's just take this phrase, yeah? Summer, content word. School, content word. English, content word. Phonetics, content word. Summer school in English phonetics. Summer school in English phonetics. How do I downgrade here? Which one do I get rid of? School, yes, because compound stress, which again is a big problem for L2 users of English, yes? Compound stress, very common. Yes, so the one that we will lose is the one on school. Remember, the consequences for this are about timing. Remember, timing. Timing. The consequences for this is not a matter of, oh, how do I transcribe it? Where do I put the marks? I'm talking about reality. Okay, this is Luke Nicholson. Any of you heard of Luke Nicholson? Yes, improve your accent. Yeah, he's great. And he doesn't normally look like he's got burns. Doesn't look like that on my computer. Anyway, yeah. So Luke is a brilliant phonetician. I hire him to teach on the summer course in English phonetics. And he kindly, because he has a lot of followers on social media, made a promotional video, which is very nice of him. And I just happened, nothing here is rigged. I didn't pay him any money, you know? I just, because it was around, I decided to use it for some examples. Oops, he's disappeared. Where's he gone? Oh. Wait a second. Oh, I want you to hear it. I don't know why it's not playing.
The Summer School in English Phonetics. 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 The Summer School in English Phonetics.
Yeah, I don't know why I wasn't playing in the... Do you believe me? Oops. I don't know why it didn't.
The Summer School in English Phonetics. 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 The Summer School in English Phonetics.
Downgrading. You know, I didn't send him an email and say, could you possibly downgrade the word school for me? And of course, when he made this, he forgot that we actually call it the summer course in English phonetics. So it doesn't matter. I still hired him. How about this one? I've done the easy work for you. I've just put stresses where the dictionary would tell you to put them. Remember, I'm putting stresses on one-syllable content words too. Like, deepen, knowledge, phonetics. Now, this one, I said these are tricky. I'm not saying these are easy. Here's a hint. When you're selling something, yes, would you like a da-da-da-da-da? You know, if you think about corny English language commercials selling something, yeah? Have you thought of da-da-da-da? You know the kind of thing I'm talking about? I don't know what you do in Spanish, but in English, did you? Anyway, pronouns work differently in Spanish. So Luke, not surprisingly, decided to put a stress on you. It's very natural in the context of a promotional video. And now we have to think about, what are we going to downgrade? What would you downgrade? So you don't want to think, we're not thinking about meaning, we're thinking about structure. Well, knowledge of phonetics is a unit, yes? That's a noun phrase. And the rest of it, if you're going to be a grammatical purist, is not exactly a constituent, but the rest of it goes before that final noun phrase. So if we take the first three stresses as our domain of interest, which is the one we're going to lose the stress on? I hope it works.
Would you like to deepen your knowledge of phonetics? Would you like to deepen your knowledge of phonetics? Would you like to deepen your knowledge of phonetics? Would you like to deepen your knowledge of phonetics? Would you like to deepen your knowledge of phonetics?
You believe me? Yes? I didn't pay him. And I didn't spend hours searching for a video. Yes, this is the first thing I thought of. It's real in English. The downgrading makes it tough, but the downgrading happens all the time. Now, this one's actually more straightforward. So what we want is a grammatical unit with three stresses. Where is the grammatical unit with three stresses? Okay, what's the middle one? Do you believe that anyone would downgrade available? When I've used this example previously, people just don't believe me. You can't downgrade available. It's such a big word. It's so important. Whereas not, you know, typically unstressed in Spanish, no.
Booking and pricing are not available yet. Booking and pricing are not available yet. Booking and pricing are not available yet. Booking and pricing are not available yet.
It's not 100% on the beats, but it's close to. Yes? Yes? Not available yet. Not available yet. Voyages of the Starship Enterprise. You've got to learn how to do this if you want to sound like an L1 speaker, which not everybody wants to, but it will help with your hearing if you're listening to L1 users of English, if you're expecting this kind of thing. It's exactly this kind of thing that makes native speakers of languages hard to understand, these details that aren't taught very often. So not available yet. It's nothing to do with which word's important. It's nothing to do with the amount of information in the word available. It's to do with the rule of 3. 3 stresses in a grammatical unit. If you stress all of them, it's emphatic. Yeah? Booking and pricing are not available yet. I'm sorry, they're just not available yet. There's nothing I can do. It's very emphatic. How much do you want me to carry on? Yes. Sure? If you need to go, then don't let me stop you. Downgrading often causes something called stress shift. Again, this is another incredibly widespread phenomenon in English. Have you heard of stress shift? Yes. Only a few voices saying yes. But some of you have. Stress shift. I mean, I use the term stress shift myself, but it's a misleading term. It's not really, in my opinion, about stress shifting. But that's what it seems to be. Okay, let's take this sentence. So where are the stresses according to the dictionary? Secondary and primary on Argentina. Argentina. And great as a content word gets a stress, yeah? So Argentina's great. Argentina's great. Argentina, USA. It's emphatic, it doesn't sound right, yeah? You can do it. Oh, Argentina's great. You can stress, you can put beats on everything. But very, very commonly, if we give no rhythmic beat to the middle stress, it will seem that the primary stress on the word Argentina has moved. This is what people call stress shift. Because if we downgrade the middle stress, we only have 2 beats, we've now got, oh, great, Argentina's great, Argentina. Oh, Argentina's great. Argentina's great. I've been there many times. Argentina's great. Very, very common, downgrading, yeah? But people say, oh, look, the stress has moved from T to R. So the word has now become Argentina. It hasn't, it's just the context, it's downgrading. If you want to call it stress shift, and I often do myself, as a descriptive label for the phenomenon, okay, but it's really downgrading. Do you see how it works? This is extremely common. Piccadilly, Piccadilly, Piccadilly. But downgrading, if you put circus after it, you've now got 3 stresses. Piccadilly Circus. Where are you going? Oh, you need to go to Piccadilly Circus. It's too emphatic. It's too emphatic. Downgrading happens everywhere. So we lose the middle one. Yeah? Oh, you've got to change trains at Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus. It's real, yes? And it looks, to some people say, oh, the stress has shifted. Piccadilly has become Piccadilly. I don't think it has. The stress is what you see in a dictionary. Yeah? This is about beats and rhythm and downgrading and timing. Yeah? So remember the timing difference. Piccadilly Circus, or at a more natural speed, Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus. That's no downgrading. Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly, no. Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus. And we had this example before, and I'm just showing you, nobody would call this stress shift. I don't think they would. Maybe they would. On its own, it's 200. But in context, 200 pounds. And the change from 200 to 200 It's just the same thing, but because it's separate words, people wouldn't normally call this a stress shift. Do you see what I mean? But it's just the same phenomenon. It's not really stress shifting, it's downgrading. Back to Luke. Given what we now know about stress shift, what can we downgrade here? Now, the thing about grammatical units is not so clear here, but we've got this fun-filled. Fun-filled is like Argentina, Argentina. But if you put another stress after it, you're very likely to downgrade the primary and get fun-filled phonetic experience. And some people would say, well, it's stress shift. Fun-filled has become fun-filled. Downgrading, really.
I hope to see you for a fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience.
So I hope you can hear that this isn't about loudness. Yes, people think, oh, stress, it's loudness. Filled is quite loud there. Yeah, but the timing is what we're talking about here in rhythm. And it's fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience. Not about swallowing the word filled. It's about how much time you take to say this. Do you want to hear that one again? So filled is not swallowed. Hasn't disappeared. It's to do with how the syllables are timed.
I hope to see you for a fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience. Fun-filled phonetic experience.
And then finally, remember what I said earlier on about intermediate syllables? How many levels of stress, how many degrees of stress are there in English? It's tricky. We know where the primary stresses are. That's where you put the main nuclear pitch accent. If you say the word with a nuclear pitch accent, which we usually don't. But if you say Argentina with a nuclear pitch accent, Argentina, 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 if you say that word with a nuclear pitch accent, it goes on the primary stress syllable. Yeah? And we know about weak syllables. The intermediate ones are the tricky ones. Is there a secondary stress on the first syllable of unique? Most dictionaries will tell you there isn't. But the fact is, if you listen to how people say this word when another word follows, whoops, speakers differ. So some people like me will say a unique formula. I don't have a stress on the first syllable of unique. A unique formula. There's no downgrading possible. Yeah? I wouldn't downgrade when there's only two. Unique formula. But if you listen to English language commercials for things like shampoo, or you'll hear things like a unique formula. A unique formula. Has the word changed to unique? No. It's downgrading. Unique formula. Argentina's great. £200. Unique formula, downgrade. The middle one, unique formula. Some people do it the first way, some people do it the second way. So it's not just the dictionaries being indecisive. I'm afraid to tell you that there's a lot of variability with these intermediate syllables, whether they're stressed or not. Fantastic. We all know the primary stress is on task. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. And most people say fantastic. Fantastic Four. You heard of superheroes? Yes? Fantastic Four. But in fact, it is possible to hear people stress shifting and putting a stress on fan, which means that for them, it's fantastic, like Argentina, Argentina. And that means you can get downgrading. Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four. So just to end with some examples from my video that I did on this a couple of months ago.
Superman or the Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four.
I love Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four.
So she has weakened the first syllable. Far from having a secondary stress on it, she's pronouncing it weak. Fantastic. So there's variability in what people do. Fantastic Four. Fantastic. I find it a bit odd to weaken the first syllable, but it's possible. It's possible. Fantastic Four. And then we get the other possibility. People who believe, they do put a secondary stress on fan.
The Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four.
You do not need like a 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. That's just going to be way too much. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie.
Want to hear that one again?
The Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four.
You do not need like a 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. That's just going to be way too much. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie.
So if you came across a short on YouTube from this young American guy talking about superhero movies, and you heard him speaking rapidly like that, I bet most of you before today wouldn't have expected him to be strictly applying downgrading and strictly applying stress-timed rhythm, but he is. A 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. It's not hard to find this stuff. It's real, yeah? So in this case, the point is you've got various things that you can point out there, but minute is also a content word. So potentially stressed, that's also downgraded here. We could go into this one in more detail. When we're left with the beats that he decides to put on there, I haven't changed anything. The metronome tells you, yeah? It's equal spacing of beats in time. Equal spacing of beats in time. That's it? Yeah, sorry to take so long. Thank you very much.
Well, on behalf of Path Examinations, we'd like to thank you for such amazing workshop and to say thank you to all of you for being there. Yes, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. And now, Paula.
Okay, I hope you had a good time. I saw you were very excited about it, so that's very nice. We now want to extend our recognition to some of the teachers who are teachers at the Universidad de El Salvador, but also friends of PATH. And the recognition has to do with the level of teachers that we have here in Argentina. Of course, they are not Geoff, but they are very, very good teachers, and so we wanted to share this moment with them. So Geoff. Well, the first one, so it reads, por su destacada trayectoria, dedicación y compromiso en el campo de la fonética, contribuyendo con excelencia a la formación académica de generaciones de estudiantes y al fortalecimiento de la enseñanza del idioma inglés. Su labor y su pasión por la docencia son un ejemplo y una inspiración para toda la comunidad educativa. Claudia Gabriele. Andrea Particone. Is she here? She's not here either. Okay. Virginia Pérez de Casal. Cynthia Smith.
Always have to think about the media. Not at all.
Stella Palavecino. last but not least, Francisco Zavala. All right. Thank you very much, Geoff. You are very welcome to come back whenever you want. This is your house and your home, better. And thank you very much, everybody. And study phonetics. We'll see you tomorrow for those who are registered for the Path Day. And that's it.
Yes, of course. Can I use one of these? Hopefully we'll be okay. So what's your name?
Cecilia. Okay, wait, wherever you want.